It's looking funny. Hey, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. I just got off the work. It's been a long day. And I've got some really interesting feedback or some comments regarding the economy, things to look at least the things that I look at when it comes to new construction. And I'm going to go over this real quick, and then we'll start taking some comments here as people start to chime in. I do this because I get hundreds of people who watch the channel during the week, and I have kind of a pet peeve when it comes to live. Have you ever watched the YouTube channel where they say, let's wait a second until everybody chimes in, and you wait 2-3 minutes and you're just sitting there watching and nothing's happening? So here's something's going to happen. I want to go over a couple of interesting things. I did some research, and if you know Dave Ramsey, I like Dave Ramsey a lot. He really teaches you how to get out of debt, live on a budget. And I'm still learning to live on a budget. My wife is teaching me how to do that. But he gave an interesting graph here, the difference between buying an existing home and building a new home. And basically, it's more money to build a new home than it is to buy an existing home. But I want to give a couple of caveats with regard to this. His numbers, this is kind of a national average. To build a new home is around $644,000, and kind of a national average. A lot of the range is in between there. But to buy an existing home, it's about $535,000. Now, here's something to keep in mind. If you were to buy a home for $535,000, that's a realtor fee, but the builder fee has already been paid off a long time ago when the home was originally built. If you're to buy an existing home, you're going to be including that builder fee inside that purchase of that property. So that could be anywhere from, I'd say, $60,000 to $80,000, $90,000 on the cost of this new home over here if you were to have a builder build the home based upon their fee they charge to build a home. So when you look at it, what I teach owner builders is, imagine taking that 10 to 20% off of that fee, and that gets you back down to or close to this number over here. And that's why owner builders build their own home, is because they're avoiding a general contractor, and that is the biggest cost in building a home, by far the biggest cost, next to maybe excavation and concrete. So if you can save $50,000 to $70,000 on being an owner builder, that's where some of your biggest cost is. Now, here's the thing I look at. The most important thing I look at is I look at oil futures, a cost per barrel for oil. And I'm going to show you a graph here, and this will tell you where oil has been per barrel. Right now, we are at $89 a barrel. All right, that's a little higher than what we've been used to for a long time. But if you look back here, back in 2001, 2020, it got down to as low as $21 a barrel. That was really cheap. But I don't remember products being as affordable as back then. Now they've increased. I look at energy. Energy costs go into everything you can imagine: transportation, manufacturing. Energy costs affect everybody: the price of food, the price of lumber, the price of everything. So I'm always looking at energy costs. Now, a lot of the pundits that I follow, or at least independent street smarts, boots on the ground type of people that I listen to, they're saying that oil prices are going to go up. In fact, one or two of the people I follow are indicating that they're going to see $10 gas in the diesel range, $10 a gallon for diesel in the next 12 months. If that happens, that's going to be an inflation hit on the cost of materials. And so right now we are in a very funky place. It's not like a deadpan situation after 2008 where it just kind of flatlined forever and then we slowly crept up. We've got a lot of debt, national debt, personal debt, statewide debt. Even civic areas have a lot of debt that they're going to try to deal with in the next coming years. And we never dealt with that debt from 2008. We just printed more money. So we're going to see more inflation. It's just in the cards. You're going to see it in energy, and you can see right now we're actually in a slight uptick with a cost per barrel. And that's weird for this to happen in the fall, because as a builder, I've seen the cost per barrel of oil go down in the fall, and prices of gas typically go down in the fall. And so if we see an uptick of oil going up, that's going to affect gas, and it's going to affect manufacturing. It's going to affect a lot of things. So keep that in mind. And I had a question to ask everybody, and I thought about this question, and about, what was it, 3 years ago, honey? I had an opportunity to build a home, and we kind of pulled back on it. Had I pulled the switch on that home, it could have been a very, very good thing for me. I had it all designed, I had it all engineered, I even had the land pretty much taken care of. I could have had the land subordinated, but I didn't pull the switch on that. And it's very, very hard to pull the switch on something. And I didn't really rely upon the universe. And right now I talk to the universe. His name is Father in Heaven. That's who I talk to a lot. And I just was driving from a job site, and I wasn't quite sure if I should move in a direction or not. And I pulled over to the side of the road, and I said a contemplative, meditative prayer, because sometimes that's just as powerful as a water witcher going out into the field and trying to help you find water. And a lot of times we're trying to find direction, we're trying to find a best path to go. And the answer I got was a pretty a confirmation in a different way than I anticipated. But I take time out to make sure that I'm kind of in the best pathway, that I'm making a decision, that I'm incorporating as much intuition, prayer, study, analysis that I possibly can, because I don't like to just go on my gut. Well, I just think it's going to be great. I'm just going to, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And it's not always awesome. Sometimes it's not that great. And as a builder, we take risks. It's probably of the one profession where we take a lot of risks, especially with finances and capital and whatnot. So I want you to be aware of that. If you're aware of where things are, and aware of where the cost of oil is going, aware of where your savings could actually be, and what you can do, you're informed. And I love it when owner builders get really, really, really informed. It's not a matter of studying technologies and design and features you want in your home. It's a matter of really studying the market and where things are, and the supply chain issues, the delays of things. And that's still here. We're still a just-in-time delivery on a lot of products. And so if you're not aware of some of these things, you can get snagged. And you can make one decision that would cost you a whole month in construction. And that slows everything down. And then, for example, let's say you have a schedule, and this very thing happened to me, where a client made a decision or did something and didn't tell me. And as a result, things weren't really communicated. And I had a subcontractor who was on vacation this week. And that subcontractor didn't want to go on vacation this week because so much is happening, but it was already scheduled because of supply chains had delayed his work getting on the job, and it pushed right up against his vacation. And so the more you know about other schedules, other people, what's going on, the better you're able to, I better not use that product. That's going to push me out 3 months. And there could be stuff like that that could hit you. And like appliances are way far out right now in a lot of cases, not always, but in a lot of cases they're way far out, especially if they're Wolf appliances or very specialized appliances. So you have to be on top of it a lot more than before. And you have to know what's coming, what's around the corner, so that you're not blindsided. And you don't want to be blindsided. And then you want to move efficiently and promptly. Just a couple of things. Watch the crude oil. Watch the price of crude and where it's going to be in 2 or 3 months. And oftentimes, sad as it sounds, it affects the price of gas pretty quick. And that affects, I've seen lumber change within a 2 or 3 day period of time. I've seen it change that fast, and you'll see lumber change prices quite a bit. A lot of things there to think about. All right, I got a couple of questions. I want to catch up with a lot of people.
Just DV Douglas.
DV Douglas, why we're not drilling for oil like crazy 24/7, 365? I will never know. I don't either, and I think it's kind of sinister. I did some reading. There's a book called the peak oil lie. Basically, I can't remember the name of the book. It was by a pastor, Lindsey Williams, and he actually wrote a book on this. And he was a pastor on the North Slope of Alaska, and he was invited into. He passed away about 6 months ago, but he was invited into the board meetings, and it was disclosed to him that we've got more oil on the North Slope of Alaska than you can shake a stick at. And it's insane, the oil reserves they have there. And why we're dependent on outside oil is crazy to me. Maybe it's a strategic thing. I don't think so. I think it's a deliberate scarcity situation. There's no reason why now oil should be over $80 a barrel. There's no reason for that. There's also a lot of oil in the United States as well. I live in a state with a ton of natural gas and coal. So I just think that we're in a very political environment. It wasn't this way 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, but it's getting worse, and it's going to get more and more difficult to build a home. So my answer to my question today is, if I should do this build, is in one sense, yes, because it's not going to get cheaper. But in another sense, it's not going to be as easy as it was 10 years ago. So that was my answer, which means move forward. And so at least that was for me, because it's not going to get better. It's not going to get easier. And so if you can think like that and design and plan with that in mind, and be very as modest as you can within your budget, you should be okay. Questions. Alex asks, I'm a new student of yours now. I just started the course last night. That's great. Make sure you do the first steps course. That first steps course, actually, if you do the self-managed course, it actually includes the first steps course, for those that don't know that. And then it will actually help you identify this real price per square foot better than any other course that's out there, especially the module number 3. Module number 3 is probably the best formula that I've been able to create to actually help students understand cost per square foot, because it's the number one question owner builders ask. Can I build this for XYZ cost per square foot? And I would say, I don't know. What's your market? And then that formula helps you go through and plug in all the data for your market, so that you can actually find out a real good approximation what the cost per square foot is to build for the home that you want to build. So again, take that course. It's really affordable, and it's very effective. Another question here. Just a few days ago, the Fed decided not to move the interest rate this time. What do you think they will do next Fed meeting? I think that it's probably a little earlier than what I was thinking they were going to hold back. There's still inflation, and they think that holding back or increasing the interest rate is going to slow down inflation, but it's not. Other things are affecting inflation right now. We're still dealing with supply issues. We're still dealing with labor issues. So I don't know. I'm not a prognosticator of the future, but I do think that they could go up another point before they start going down, or they could go up 5 basis points. They could go up, 10 basis points. I don't know. But I don't think that they can go up to what we saw in the 1970s, where we had double-digit interest rates as high as 18%. That was brutal. And that they tried to put a tamp down, a real hard kicker on inflation by creating these incredibly high interest rates. Nobody could afford a home. I mean, it was like dead in the water with construction. I lived in a small town up in a place called Sandy, and back there in the 70s, it literally just shut down. We lived right next to a subdivision, and we had already lived in the home we bought, and my family bought, and we used to go into the subdivision, and we would look at all the basements that were unfinished, and all kinds of just these homes that were just half done and just sitting there. And I saw the same thing in California because we actually moved to California during this time. So I saw it in 2 states. It was like a real shutdown. And people were hungry for work, and people were trying to go everywhere they could to get some work. I don't think they'll get to that kind of inflation, but we can get to that kind of interest rate. But we could affect inflation. Inflation can slow us down just as much as high interest rates. So again, you got to study this stuff. You've got to pick 3 people you like, personalities you like, independent people, boots on the ground people, people that are, on at street level, and they're reporting at that level. They're not just a pundit in a suit on a dead stream media platform. You don't want that, because they are not really connected to you. They don't know what's really going on. So you pick 3, 4, and really, to be honest with you, if you're building a home, you should be listening to these people every day, because they're going to give you feedback that you really need. And I trust those people. There's a lot of them. I've got a list I did on a piece post ads 6 months ago, where I had 10 of my top 10 favorite alternative economists that I listen to, and they're very helpful. So again, I can't begin to tell you how important that is. One thing I want to talk about is that I just did a post on came out on Tuesday, and it deals with roofs. Okay, and I want to give a little shout out to how important the design of a roof is. And I'm seeing a lot of owner builders design these really crazy roofs, and they put all their design, all their functionality, everything into the look of the home on the outside, and they cut the roof up so bad that they don't realize the cost of framing that roof, nor do they cost to roof that roof. And I want to give a little, if you haven't watched that video, watch that video. It came out on Tuesday. And I talk about the best pitch of a roof. And my favorite pitch is a 712 pitch. And I want to reiterate why that's important. 712 pitch is about like that. It means you can walk on the roof, and it's more safe than an 8 or 9 or 1012 pitch. But then it's not so shallow like a 3 or 212 pitch that causes serious problems with roofs. So I just came back from a truss plant just now, and I saw that the roof pitch on a certain porch section of the house was a 212 pitch. And I go, that's not going to do. So we hurried and jumped and made it a 512 pitch. And we're going to save some problems and headaches down the road. And I'm seeing a lot of roof pitches get a little too shallow, especially with bump outs and shed dormers and all kinds of artistic things that people are doing to homes. If it's covering any sizable section of the home, you want to make sure you want to get water off the home as quick as possible. If you got a 212 pitch, it's going to puddle. It's going to sit on that home. And if you got asphalt shingles, it's going to want to sit for a long time. It's going to work its way into the substrate. So I just wanted to really kind of hit that real hard today as a compendium to the video I put out on Tuesday. Be very cautious of the pitch of your roofs, for cost to build, cost to roof, and then for the dangers that you can have if it's too shallow. Think about that. 712, it's really my favorite pitch. And if you were to roof that house yourself, you'll see why a 712 is the best pitch of a home. Let's catch up with some questions here. Just a few days ago, the Fed said, let's see what's the next one. Harold asked, hey, hello, Harold. Why do some builders use black roofing in the sunny Southwest? I don't know. That's a really good question. They don't consider reflectability. If they're doing an asphalt shingle roof, they should do a lighter tan. There's even some white grains of sand on some asphalt shingles roofs, but that absorption quality of that black roof is pretty insane. And I haven't figured out why people do that. They don't think of the radiant quality and the radiation of heat back into the attic. They just don't think about that. It's kind of like when you go to the beach, and I don't know if you've noticed that when the sand is a little darker, it's hotter, but the whiter the sand, it's not as hot. Have you noticed that when you walk on sand? I've noticed that a lot. And you want to, when things are out in the sun, just touch them. I have tools that are out in the sun. And if I have something that's insulated, then it's not hot. It doesn't, it's not bad. But if it's not insulated, it's like cast iron or steel, and I pick that up, that's hot. And that's conducting heat into the house. That's why I like radiant barriers on roofs, because it reflects a lot of the heat back out into the atmosphere. So good question. Good question. Uh, let's see. Amen, Keith. I'm a fan of simple roofs. Yes, I am too. Doug asks. Let's see. Linda asks, what would you put under standing seam roof to dry in? Which synthetic is your favorite? Would you consider cleats under the roof to get some air under the roof? I'm in Colorado. You live in a colder climate and you don't have the heat buildup, and you're probably close to a mile high, or at least around that 6,600 feet above sea level. So most of the year, it's a cool temperature, not a hot temperature like I deal with. But if you can't afford it, it wouldn't be bad to put that on cleats and put it on kind of a grid and lift that off the roof. But here's the problem: you get hail there a lot of the time, and so you're going to have that standing seam sitting about a half, 3/4 of an inch off of the roof. And then when that hail hits, it's like a tin can that's empty, and you hit that tin can, it's going to have a dent in it. But if that tin can is up against something solid, all right, then it can bounce off that and it can absorb that a little better. I love, in fact, I'm going to probably do this on a cabinet that I'm working on, is I love to go with a thicker sheeting on the roof. Not the cheapest sheeting, but a thicker sheeting, because I can absorb a little more snow weight, snow load. It doesn't have any concave into it. If you've got a truss, it's got a little bit of a bend to it like that. It can actually help. You can shim that out and straight line that out, and it can absorb a little more weight with hail and stuff like that. So it's a pros and cons. If I was in a hill environment like you are, and I think you are in the parts of or you are in Colorado, you might want to think about that. Talk with some roofers in the area, ask them about it. You want to try to protect your roof as best you can. So
she's at 8,600 elevation.
Which one?
Not the one that you just talked about.
Oh, 8,600. That's high. That's a high elevation. You're going to have a massive snow load up there. I'm building up in the mountains right now on some, and I'm at 6,700 feet. So you're another 15 or whatever 100 feet above that. And that's a high elevation. So you're probably going to deal with 2 to 3 feet of snow load, possibly, but even higher in some places. So that's going to be a lot of weight on there. And if you have that weight on there and you've got a grid, and it could concave inside that standing seam and do a number on your standing seam. So I would avoid that.
Alex R said, do you like asphalt roofs or metal roofs?
I like metal roofs, not asphalt. I'm just not a fan of asphalt. It's just got a problem. It builds up crap inside the rain gutters. I could go on and on about it. It's cheap. It's quick to install, but it's not a lasting quality for me. And I like to do something and not have to touch it for at least 50 years. If I can do something and not have to touch it and maintain it and update it for at least that long, I'm in favor of that product. Which is why, if I'm going to do a batten board on the exterior of the home, I don't want to do Smart Side. I want to use Hardy. I want to use something that's a concrete base that takes the paint, holds the paint forever, takes dings and dents quite well. It's going to last for a long time. And it's even fire retardant. And I want to have something that's more lasting. I'm a builder like that. I don't want to have to touch something in 5 or 10 years. I just had a bid for a new product to be installed on a deck for something, for a job. And the subcontractor says, I'll warranty it for 5 years. And I go, well, that's all, and it's going to maintain the UV protection on that. It's not going to get destroyed by the sun. So I want to go after a product that has a longer warranty that's going to hold out for quite a long time. So it's the question here, Mac. A 212 standing seam roof shed H2O. I live in the mountains and see many modern homes. They like that snow builds up and adds R value. Thoughts? Um, Not really. It does until you get ice damming underneath the snow, because what happens is the radiant light of the sun comes down and it doesn't warm the snow. It goes down and hits that metal, and it warms up the metal, and it starts to melt there, and it starts to dam up. And then you're going to have ice damming on that, especially if it's shallow pitch, and then it's not going to slide off. And you'll find that snow will slide off at a little steeper pitch than a shallow pitch. And so I'm not a fan of. That's why on the home I just left the truss plant, and I have to do standing seam in some areas. But it was originally 212, but now we pushed it up to a 412, and it's going to help out quite a bit on the roof. I just don't like it sitting there. Maybe in the winter, in the nighttime, and there's 2 feet of snow up there, and you haven't got any ice damming on there, then it could act as an insulator, but only for that moment in time until it starts to melt underneath. So it does act as an igloo, but just for a short period of time. Matthew asks, how will an appraiser come to a value if there are no comparable comps where you are building? Is a quadplex in the county near a large company? In a country.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah. My wife's can answer that. She's got a better way to answer that. Go ahead.
Sorry. So I'm not an appraiser, but this is what we're kind of told, is that they will go, usually it's 6 months for an appraisal. They'll do 6 months in a certain area. And if they can't find it, they'll go back further in years, or they will expand the distance and then compensate for that area. That's a general rule.
So they can go back further than 6 months. They can go back a year.
Some will even go back 2 years.
Okay.
If they need to go back 2 years and then expand the search parameters.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, if there's a lot of sales going on, then they'll just use the most recent. That could be 2 or 3 months. But if they're having a hard time finding comparables, they just should go back in time. All right. And I like it when they widen the search. Typically, it's a mile or 2 or 5 miles on a maximum. It could go further for other very rural areas where there's not much building going on. The further out they widen that, they'll capture the potential for more comparable solds in your area. So hopefully that answers your question for you. Linda asks, so what corners do you use on a house? 4 studs, California corners? I think there is one more. I have a lot of corners in my design. Shear strength, I'm using zip board. I like the California corner because I can get insulation in it the best. And so there are some corners where you've got some pockets where you can't get insulation into them after it's sheeted. And so if you don't have insulation on the site to stuff in there before they sheet, you're out of luck. So I like a corner that allows you to, excuse me, to get insulation in there after it's sheeted. So any corner that allows you to do that, the better. And then like you, I prefer more shear strength. And so if I can get more shear strength, all the better too. But my first criteria is whatever corner is going to get insulation inside from the inside, not the outside. A real thought on that. A lot of framers, when they build headers on homes, and I've talked about this in some other videos, they'll put that empty gap on the outside, typically of a header with maybe a 2x10 or 2x12 material, or they'll use LVL material, but there's still going to be 3/4 of an inch or sometimes 1.5 inches of a gap. And so I like to have all my gaps facing on the inside and all my wood flush on the outside. That way, when insulators come, they fill in all the gaps from the inside, and I make sure I get insulation. I don't have to be there when the framers are there to make sure they get insulation stuffed in there. Question here from Dolly. That's a great name, Dolly Perry. How do you figure costs to bring water and septic tank to a property? Depends on how far the water is. Um, if your water is like within 150 feet and it's not that hard to trench and it's usually about 36 inches down or 3 feet or more, then you can figure out how much pipe it's going to cost, and typically a 3/4 inch pipe. But I like to do a full 1 inch pipe because I want to make sure I get all the pressure I can up until I get to the home. And then I just take that 1 inch line. Keep in mind though, if you do go a 1 inch line, that meter is going to be a 1 inch meter. It's going to be more costly. And so you want to find out how much the meters are in your area for a 3/4 inch and a 1 inch line. And they're more for the 1 inch line. So you can figure out, though, it's pretty easy to figure out how much it costs to trench, lay your pipe, and then bury it. The septic is a different beast. Septics can range, I've seen them range from GADs on the low end, 12,000 to as high as $30,000, $40,000. And it depends on the complexity of the septic and whether or not you're on a terraced hill and all that. And you want to just, that's where you really want to think twice about the land you buy. If it really can't accommodate for a septic, I've got 3 septics I'll be putting in here in the next year on 3 builds. And one of them is really challenging. The other 2 are very simple because the lots are very, very long. So I'm building the home here, and it's high on the hill, and the septic is going to be lower. And you want your septic to be below the grade of the home. That way you've got it gravity fed and you don't have to have any sump pump submitted or connected to the septic system. So you just want to think about those things. I've got a septic checklist in my program, questions to look at, things to look at when it comes to homes and stuff like that. I added another checklist, and it's a home site selection checklist, and it actually helps you look at some of the issues you may run into with regard to septic. So some things to think about. Austin asks, what do you think about a post frame with 8-foot bays to increase efficiency? Do you have an experience with that type of building? Yeah, you can actually frame a home using 2x6 and even 2x2, if I'm correct, 2 foot on center. The problem is you're going to lose a lot of shear strength, meaning shear strength is the home could wobble like that. If it's post and beam, you're going to have some purlins run between there, so you can affix some siding to the outside of that. If the engineer can pass it off, by all means, if you have the shear and all that kind of stuff, by all means, try for it. The advantage is that we know that wood is a terrible insulator, so you're avoiding all that terrible insulation, which is no insulation. Wood is not that great, so you're eliminating all that. So that's going to be a positive. But I wouldn't do anything less than a 2x6. I'd go bigger if I could. If it's going to post beam, you're probably dealing with maybe a 5x5 post or 6x6 post. I don't know. That helps.
3x2x6.
A 3x2. Okay. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad because you can cut it out and land your headers on it really nice. And as long as you can cut out and have your headers sit right on top of that, all the better. It's a matter of whether or not an engineer is going to pass off on it, if they're going to allow for that. And your sheeting you may want to beef up your sheeting, rather than 1132s or something. I'd go almost 1/2 inch on that exterior sheeting. It's really going to add strength to the whole home. So
it's aligned with trusses.
Yeah. What's that?
He says, aligned with trusses.
Yeah, aligned with trusses. Yeah. If it aligns with the trusses, you got their compression strength and it's supporting all those trusses above. Just keep in mind your trusses are 2 foot on center. So there's going to be some areas where the trusses are going to sit. And there's not going to be that support underneath it. So it's got some massive header supports underneath there. Let's see, Mac. Local credit unions suspended owner builder programs, won't even accept land as collateral for down. Are others experience the same challenge? I've met some. However, we've had some students that actually got a loan because they were in the program, and I have a letter that I've drafted that I have some students take to credit unions. And right now, I think they're probably 65% to loan to value, which means that they were at one time 10%, 20%. Now they're closer to 35% in the loan to value. And so that's what you see with the constriction of credit is they'll increase the equity requirement on the owner builders. Now there's kind of ways around that. Is in order to increase your equity potential in a home, I like to take it in chunks. So I get the land paid off. That may take a year or two or more. And then I get the architectural, I get the structural, I get the the geotech, then I get the septic all done, and I pay for all those. And I just cash flow all those. Right there, that's around $12,000 to $14,000 with the land. And I'm chunking away at that 35% or 20%, whatever it may be. And the more you can get that chunked away, the better the position you're going to be with a bank or with a lending institution. So we're just in a credit crunch right now, and it may not get better for a while. And so that's why if you've got that approval and you've got it and you're safe with your job and all that and being able to afford the monthly payment, now is a better time to build rather than 6 months from now. Based upon my feeling of where we are and where we're headed. Let's see, I think line of games.
Older white people in the USA not building houses from block anytime.
Okay, white people in USA not building houses from block any type. It's cheaper. Is it cheaper? It depends on what kind of block. If I were really wanting to scrape the barrel, I would probably do a foundation with rebar, and I'd probably build adobe blocks like that and set them right on top of each other. There's a lot of really interesting block manufacturers, and some of them have holes in the middle where you can stick rebar and pour a liquid form of concrete in there for actual shear support. And so I'm surprised that rammed earth and other technologies really haven't taken off. And again, here's the problem is the adoption level, especially with some new technologies. And the adoption is all, I believe, a lot of it has to do with the supply houses. The supply houses don't want to showcase new technologies if they can't sell more of the new technology than the old technology. So when builders go into a supply house to order stuff, they don't see anything. They don't do research. But it would be really nice if supply houses, I actually thought of a company called Apex Construction Technologies, Advanced Construction Technologies, and to be a supply house where we have a dedicated area on the floor where we've got the newest technologies out there and we can source those for you. And that way builders are informed. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Well, great. Let me come over and show you this new technology. That's the only way to get new stuff out there or new systems and processes is get them right in the face of builders because they aren't research oriented. In fact, builders are not nearly as research oriented as owner builders. Owner builders will research up the wazoo on stuff. And then they complain that nobody else knows what they know. Well, now you know why. And I think one of the only ways to get new technologies out there is to get them in front of builders some way, and supply house is probably the best way to do that. Let's see. Linda Ritchie, do you use number 2 spray foam on the whole house or just where it is most important? I ask people for Rockwell, and in Colorado, they think I'm crazy. People, it won't burn. Let's cry it. Like you're saying there, Linda, the problem is that a lot of subcontractors do not want to adapt to new technologies. I just did a home and put Rockwell in the whole thing. If it was my home, I may have done something else, but they were hesitant to do it. And I go, just give me the numbers on it. You figure out the cost to, just like batting, but you have to cut it. And we got a price and got it installed. It's educating. You have to actually butter up some of your subcontractors. Can just install this, it's a little harder, but please install it. And you just have to talk with them, walk them through it. And what I have found is once you walk them through the installation of a new product, now they want to do more of that product. All right. Especially some of the roofs I put on, a lot of other products I put on, they actually like it more. And you just have to help them through the process. And I think a lot of owners, I think more technology is brought into the market by owner builders than just about any other builder that I know of. And if it wasn't for owner builders, they wouldn't be trying new technologies and they'd have a hard time getting into the market. I really do believe that. Let's see. Holder says, let's see. Matthew, owner builders won't change their way. Yes, correct. Other builders will not change their ways. And here's the reason, it's not easy. It's hard to change your ways because now you've got to get somebody else to learn how to install that. Now you've got to get somebody to figure that out. That's why I have a good relationship with OmniBlock, is because I've got a relationship with so many people that I've actually brought on board to learn how to install it. And I have a direct contact with the president of the company. I can call him right now on the phone and he'll pick up the phone for me. So I have that connection, and he actually helps me find masons. So I don't have that in with a lot of other companies, but with OmniBlock, I do. So you want to be on a first name basis with a lot of these new technologies. And then if you do get that route, then they can help you find talent to install it. As a question that's been asked to me a lot, this is from Linda, or no, it's from Sloan. Do you have a preferred window brand or type? And I said, I don't. I do like triple pane windows, but they're very, very costly. And I found companies in China and companies in Sweden that manufacture them to the level I would like, but they're very, very pricey. And I haven't been able to, do a cost benefit analysis to even see if it's even beneficial to put them in. I go with I like the ones that come without any chips or dings on them. And packaging is a big deal for me. One student asked me the name of a window product, and again, I forget the name of it. I've been looking for it for a while. I bought some windows a while back ago, and they came to my home, and they were all packaged in the neatest cellophane and styrofoam. There was not a ding or damage to the windows at all. I just said, man, this manufacturer is pretty cool. And I forget the name of it. In fact, this is a window from them right here. Oh, here we are. Simonton. It's called
Spell it.
SIMONTON. Yeah. SIMONTON. Simonton. And I actually got them at Home Depot. And they came so well packaged. I go, guys, I wish I'd bought Anderson windows, high-end Anderson windows, and they would come back and some of the flanges would be chipped, and some of the protection on the outside wasn't that great. I bought very expensive windows and I was let down, and yet I bought some very affordable windows, and I was quite surprised. But that was the name of the windows. I'm glad I looked at that. I didn't even think about looking at it from this angle. So, but I put those windows in. So yeah, question. Let's see here.
Holder up at the top. Holder.
Okay. I said Matthew, older builders, Sloan, Holder. Can I production some block here in Utah for my own house if I want to build it myself? Any problems I can get? Building your own block? I don't know. The problem is that block has to meet a certain CPI, meaning compression per inch. And if you can prove that that's there and it will pass off with engineering, then the engineering can submit it to the permitting office, and the permitting office will approve what the engineer will approve. But the engineer will only approve it if you can prove that it's going to hold up. So we don't live in pioneer days anymore. We live in Big Brother, where you got multiple people that are going to check that, especially where you are building. Utah is a little sophisticated. It's probably one of the more sophisticated states, meaning that when you go get a permit, it's not that easy. It's getting more and more complex because we have such a high growth in our state. It's been like that for other areas. Whereas other parts of the country, like right now, the cheapest 4 cities to build in right now happen to be, and I wrote this down. Where did I put this down? Detroit, Cleveland, Houston, and I think it was a city in Virginia. I can't remember. I don't know where I put that sticker, but those were the cities, not states, cities that were the most affordable to build in because nobody wants to live there. And so it's pretty cheap to build there. Right now, people want to live in a rural environment. They want to get out and away and are looking for good communities and place where they can have a garden, stuff like that. And that means it's going to be a little more pricey. So, and it's going to be more sophisticated on the permitting office. Trust me on that. However, if you can get in a county, like I've said before, if you can build in a county, all power to you. It's going to be a little easier than building in the city. Another question here. This is from Matthew. Have you noticed a certain square foot room count, finishes and or floor plan, etc., over the years that have the best margin to build on average, intimidated with ending up underwater from high cost of goods? Just your straight up rectangle, just a simple rambler. I would do a rambler that's got me 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, but I would put a porch on it. I'd put a porch on the front and the back, and that would add to the aesthetics of the home, keep water shedding on the home, protect the home. Just a rambler, straight up rectangle, and that's what I've found in a lot of research. It's probably the most affordable and the easiest one to price materials for, rather than one that's got all kinds of cuts and divots and architectural, mess to it. So I hope that answers your question. I have actually got some designs like that that I've worked with over the years. Question, let's see. How do you feel about wood fireplace inserts? Yuck. I don't like them. They're terrible to clean out. Absolutely terrible to clean out. I'm actually designing a cabin for a client, and I want to do a concrete kind of fireplace, a typical fireplace. And then we're going to do a wood burning fire stove, not an insert fireplace, but a wood burning stove that's going to sit inside there. And the neat thing is I'm going to have almost a foot of air clearance all the way around that wood burning fire stove. So it's going to radiate heat back into the room, and it's also much easier to clean out. You open it up, it's going to be on its own concrete platform with maybe some tile or something. So I'm not going to make a mess. It's not going to get on the insert. You typically have maybe wood flooring going right up to the insert. It's very hard to clean. It's really, really messy. It's hard to get in there, hard to work your way around it. And here's the other thing. If times get really, really bad, and the only way to boil water is on your fireplace, how are you going to boil it on an insert? There's no flat top. All right. Some of them have that. Most of them don't. That's why I like a wood burning stove that has a flat top. If it has that flat top on there, all power to you, because then it's going to help you boil, cook, whatever you want to do. So I'm always thinking about other factors. And I also look at the radiant heat quality and how well it gets heat into the environment. All right, that's what you really want to look at. Something else to think about when it comes to wood burning fireplaces, a lot of times we take that flue and we bury it inside the frame structure, and we bury it inside a chimney. Well, I did a home for a client a long time ago, and we actually ran that flue into the open air. All right. And that flue got hot, and the whole thing got hot. So on a really, really cold night, that made the whole house toasty warm. And they actually loved sleeping with all the windows upstairs open. And then they would stoke that fire because they loved the mixture of hot and cold. And some people like that, but they were able to get that sleep that they like because of that. So think about how you can capture that heat, keep it inside the home, and not let it get wasted, and how hard it is to clean those inserts. And a lot of those inserts don't handle wood burning very well, and they're not as safe as a fully encased cast iron situation. Simonton, yes, that's it, Melissa. DB Douglas asks, Syndrolite.
He was.
Oh,
That's something different.
It did for me
Really
also,
slow.
but it dropped down the quality of.
Audio.
Okay. 71. Sloan asks, dirt contractor can do clearing, grubbing, trenching, septic, install, foundation, backfill, and final grade. He gave 40K to 60K price range, 3 to 5 acres, and 5 bed end product. 20K is big swing. That is a big swing. If he can't nail down his numbers to within and say, I've never seen that. That gives him too much leg room that he can mess around with. What I would look for is an excavator that says, I can do all this, fill not included, because you sometimes don't know how much clean fill you're going to need for final grade. And then he says, we estimate maybe 20, 30 yards of clean fill, but we're going to estimate 40 on this job. But if we end up needing less, we won't charge you for that. Here's my fixed price, and here's the variable price they can go up. And if he's not separating those two things out, he doesn't have a lot of experience and he doesn't know how to bid. But anyone to give you a range like that is dangerous. I'd walk away from that real quick. Sloan asks, I've got a few more minutes left. Tried sending an email to confirm all that was included, but have not gotten a response. Either he is too busy to respond or doesn't want job, small business. He's a small business. He probably doesn't want the job unless he can have that flexibility to charge you what he wants. And you want to stay away from that. You want to have a person that can square away the cost. For example, I have a excavator, and he's just phenomenal. I've got 2 or 3 excavators I really like, and he gave me a bid of $21,000 for digging out a basement and final grade, and he also included all the utility lines. And when he was there, I asked him if he put in a culvert. He did. He charged me very nominal for the culvert, and he got some other extra things for me. The thing you want to think of, be aware of, is with excavators, is you don't want them to come back and leave and back and leave. So he knows how I operate. And so when he came back the second time, I had everything lined out, everything ready for him, so he was able to get it done. You just don't want them to come back and, can you do the road and touch up the road? And can you get this? It's kind of sinking in an area, and back and forth. If you start doing that to subcontractors, they go bonkers. And that's probably why some subcontractors give that price, because they don't know who you are and what they're dealing with. And if it's a general contractor they know, they're probably a little more confident in what they can put as a price. And so that's that. I don't think that's the reason why this guy is bidding that high, but I've seen some subcontractors treat owner builders a little differently, because they don't know if they're going to get called and worried and ticky-tack things and Inspector Gadget issues all day long. So they will price it higher. That's why I say call yourself a builder. Don't give yourself away that you're the owner builder, and don't even say that this is your own home. You just say you used to be a builder over in XYZ county, and you're here building a home for your uncle, or your brother, or someone like that. I mean, if you can get away with that, it helps down the road. Yeah, it's a white lie, but it's to everybody's advantage to some degree. Let's see, running out of time here. Answer these last questions here. Let's see. Let's see. Herndon Dump Trucking. Hey, I have house plans to build, but I am not a GC looking to build spec home for resale. Need help. Go to howtobuldyourownhome.com. Take the First Steps course, and if you're interested and think that owner building is for you, take the second course, the self-managed course. But keep in mind, if you're not a GC, in most states, you can't sell that within 22 months or 2 years. Check your state requirements that say that. You want to just make sure you're up to snuff with all that. And Alex asks, let's see. Sloan, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. Builder First Source has pre-made house plans online. Would you think that they have any good price since they have dialed in the materials? One-stop shop for all the material for the job. Not really. The problem is they don't have the plot plan, and if they don't include the engineering, engineers are going to cost a little extra. And then, how sophisticated is your building permit, your permitting office? How much extra are they going to require on the engineering? How much extra are they going to require on the plot plan and on the plans and elevation and all that kind of stuff? I've had students build in California and Texas and even Colorado and some other places where I actually gave them an architect, and our architect charged them a little extra fee, but they included all the things you could run into that the permitting office is going to ask for. So when it's an all-in-one situation like that, and you have to come back for change orders, they're going to charge you a fortune for change orders, and you might want to find out what those are, what their fees are for any kind of change orders. Just look at the contract, look at the agreement. But it is nice that they can give you the actual cut list for everything. That's not bad. Maybe you can just buy the plan and get the cut list. But that's it. I don't know. So with a little research, you can get your own cut list. Sloan asks, any recommendations on air vents in kitchen and bathrooms? Yes, you want to get one with a high CPU, or not CPU, what's the name of it? One that actually will move the air in a short amount of time. I can't remember the name of that. But when you ask an HVAC contractor, they'll be able to tell you. My electrician installs all my fans inside my bathroom, but he gets me a higher functioning, higher value fan to install than a really, 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 really cheap one. In fact, one time I was building a home and I went out and got them myself, and he tore them all out. And he says, I'm not going to let you put that crap in at home. Those fans will not move any air in this bathroom at all. And he took them out, put them in a box for me, and he says, go get your money back. I'm putting mine in. So I kind of appreciated that. So he knew a little bit more than I did. And it has to do with the airflow and making sure you're moving that air in a certain amount of time. HVAC contractor can actually give you the calculations on that, and then he'll tell you which product, which one you want to buy. As for kitchens, that's typically makeup air, and some permitting offices require it based upon the cubic square footage of the air capacity inside the home. Up north where I used to build, yes, we had to have makeup air inside the kitchen because I had an open flame. And in some permitting offices, if you have an open flame anywhere, they're going to ask for new makeup air, especially if you're on propane. And again, different gas, different utilities, it's going to have different requirements. So find out. The permitting office that you're working with is going to tell you everything that you need to know. And so that's who I would trust first.
Also say hi to Ray. Ray is watching.
Okay. Hello, Ray.
Say Ray.
Ray.
She's 6 years old.
6 years old. Hey, Ray. Hello there. He's
Okay.
6 years old.
Go back to Alex R.
Okay, Alex R. Hey, what is an average price per acre on lot land clearing? How do they charge or price their work? It depends on how deep the root structure is. And it sounds weird, but some trees have a deeper root structure, like back east, where there's oak on a lot of the land. That has a taproot that's really, really nasty, and it goes straight down. But if it's just maybe some scrub oak or something like that, then it's very shallow. Like here we have what's called a poplar tree, or we have a fruited or non-fruited mulberry tree, and they're very shallow. They grow fast, but they don't dig down. They stay really shallow. Those are easier to take up than a tree that's got taproot that's going way down. And most of your geotech reports are going to require that you cannot have anything in organic matter bigger than your pinky. And even I've seen some that say, no, I'm not going to allow that. Make sure that you filter out everything. I can't allow for any capillary rotting inside the substrate of the dirt. When that rots, it starts to collapse, and if there's more than several pieces of wood in there, organic matter, it can eventually rot, and you've got some weakness in the whole soil. You see what I'm getting at? That's your big issue, is how much organic matter and how deep does that organic matter go down. So I know a lot of owner builders of my students have bought a lot of land with oak on it, and you want to find out, talk to an herbalist or arborist, and they're going to really tell you, even a tree surgeon, Tell me about the root structure on some of these plants and trees. Like a palm tree, it's just one ball like that. You can literally take that up and plop it and put it in the ground somewhere else, and it's going to stay alive. It doesn't expand out like an oak tree or like some other trees. So learn your wood and the trees that you're trying to take out, and how dense it is and how thick the wood is. That's all a big factor too.
Carlene.
Let's see. Carlene, hello. That's a great name, Carlene. If you use architect to do the house plans, do you still need a structural engineer? Yes, unfortunately. Now, I've debated this with a lot of owner builders for a long time. I had an owner builder who says the permitting office doesn't require an engineer, so therefore I'm not going to pay for an engineer. Correct. If the permitting office doesn't require, you can just submit architectural plans. I'm building in a county up north that 5 years ago, I didn't have to submit structural plans. Now I do. Here's the problem. If you don't have any structural plans, who's accountable for the quality of the build? You are. You cannot hold accountability on a framer to build a home to proper engineering specs because he doesn't have engineering to build off of. He's just building off my best guess or my experience. This is what I've done in the past, but who knows if that calculates outright. So I would never build without engineered plans because that now holds everyone accountable to this, especially your foundation crew, your excavation crew, and your framing crew. Those are the three that cannot build without structural plans. I'm sorry, it's just not wise, and I would never go there. If I lived in New Guinea in some place and I'm building a little hut for myself and I know that it's a temporary structure, fine. But if I'm going to build a permanent structure, I want to make sure it's done right. And so there's a big plus with engineered plans. And it's about the same price as architectural anyway. So if you're paying $1.25 for architectural, you're probably paying $1.50 to me, as high as $2 a square foot for engineered plans, sometimes higher depending upon how challenging the engineering is. Again, if you keep your design simple, the engineering is going to be more affordable. All right. A couple more questions before we go. Sloan, thanks. We got everybody. My 6-year-old Ray is watching. I already said hello to Ray. I think we got all the questions answered. Again, study things. Again, what's neat about owner builders, they really do study. They have a lot of questions. I talk to general, and it's fun to talk shop with them. I talk shop with builders, and they don't know. They don't know half the stuff owner builders know, and I really do mean that. Some general contractors know subcontractors better. They know their market. They know what they can get and how much things are in their market, and they can schedule probably a little more efficiently. But as far as learning about technologies and systems and processes, owner builders are really, really heads and shoulders above that. And then it makes it difficult to build for an owner builder. Trust me. I don't like building for owner builders because they can be challenging. So keep that in mind when you hire subcontractors, and make sure that you work with them. And, it really boils down to how you treat people, even under a very difficult situation. If something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, I don't care who you are, there's just a glitch, there's a difficulty, there's something that happens during the course of the process where it's just not perfect. If you can remain calm during that process and talk with your subcontractors, they're going to appreciate you and they're going to enjoy coming back on the job. But if you come up to your subcontractors and tell them, we paid good money, this shouldn't happen. Well, that's not true. Things happen. Bad things happen to good people. They happen to bad people. They happen to all kinds of people. Just things happen. And sometimes you can watch out for them as best you can. And sometimes you can't. I'm dealing with a situation where I really watched out for it, did everything I possibly could, did overkill on preparing, make sure I did it right. And it still came out wrong. Even despite having 20 years experience in a trade that I knew what I was doing, it didn't work. It didn't take. So I'm paying for it. All right. So, but I didn't get myself all bent out of shape. And you talk and you work with people. As long as they're willing to take responsibility, that's all that matters. And give them time to take responsibility. Give them time to get it done and get it right. And don't be a hassle-wassel. That's a word I'm going to come up with. It's a hassle-wassel. So anyway, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. I'll answer one more question that just came in, and this is from Tony. Hello, Keith. Do you prefer PEX over conventional plastic pipes? And I go, yes, I love PEX. especially sleeve PEX. Always do it every single time. Anyway, you guys take
Use
care.
their fittings.
What's that?
Use their fittings.
Yep.
Jade.
PEX fittings.
Use their fittings only as well.
Yeah, use their fittings only. Yep. I can talk more about that. I could go on for 10 minutes on that one there. Anyway, this is Keith. You guys have a great weekend. Again, hold your questions during the week. That would be great. Put them in a journal or something like that and have them ready for next week. Like, share, subscribe. That would be great. We're having a lot of fun helping people. And again, inflation is not going to go away, folks. And be aware of that. Be on top of that. Study where energy costs are going. And that's your biggest canary in the coal mine as to where costs are going to go. And then, of course, interest rates. If you look at those two things and study those two things, you're going to be on top of it. So you guys take care. This is Keith at How to Build Your Home. You guys take care. My wife says bye.